A jury has found Dale Warner guilty in the death of his wife, Dee Warner.
Jurors in Lenawee County, Michigan, convicted him of second-degree murder and tampering with evidence after about 8 hours of deliberations.
WTOL 11 cameras were there as Dale entered the courtroom to hear the verdict. This comes almost 5 years after Dee first disappeared. She was reported missing in April of 2021, and her remains were discovered in this 3 years later inside of a fertilizer tank on the Warner property. That tank was later linked to Dale Warner. Now he's scheduled to be sentenced May 7th.
Our team's covering all angles of the trial last night. Steve Iwanek is in Adrian, hearing from a community that's been at the center of the case for years.
But first, let's get to Faith Zahowski, who's hearing from Dee's family following this verdict this afternoon. Faith, it's been an emotional day in Lenawee County.
It has. The courtroom broke into tears as the verdict was read, a moment Dee Warner's family has been fighting for since the day she disappeared. And tonight, they say this win belongs to everyone who stood with them. For 5 years, the question of what happened to Dee Warner has haunted Lenawee County. Today, the jury's decision finally brought answers.
To find the defendant, Dale Warner, as to count 1, guilty of second-degree murder. As to count 2, guilty of tampering with evidence.
Dale Warner found guilty of murdering his wife, Dee Warner. Her family overcome with emotion as the verdict was read. Dee's brother, Greg Hardy, says they never stopped fighting for this moment.
Whatever it was going to take. We were going to get there.
Hardy says the family fought not just for answers, but to be believed.
It was hard to convince people, authorities included, that we knew what we knew. And so we just had to keep persisting until we could get enough people.
Today, a jury agreed, holding Warner responsible for what Hardy calls an unthinkable act.
It's impossible to conceive how someone would be that evil.
While the verdict is a victory for Dee's loved ones, it's a disappointing outcome for Warner's defense team.
He obviously was upset, if any human being would be, but he knew this was a possible outcome. We respect the work that the jury put in, and Mr. Warner does plan to appeal.
With sentencing set for May 7th, Hardy says this moment belongs not just to their family, but to the people of Lenawee County.
The biggest part of that has been the public and their willingness to fight for Dee, and I think the Justice for Dee group, all the community people were absolutely phenomenal, and without them we wouldn't be here today.
The community that rallied behind Dee Warner has never been quiet, and tonight they're speaking out about the verdict. Dan?
All right, thanks, Faith. Tonight, legal experts are weighing in on the verdict, saying it reflects what the prosecution was able to prove in court. Just hours ago on WTOL 11+, we spoke with former municipal judge Gary Byers, former assistant prosecutor and current assistant law professor David Harold, and former Toledo police detective James Trout. They say first-degree murder in Michigan requires proof of planning and premeditation, something that can be difficult to show. Instead, jurors decided the evidence better supported second-degree murder. This meaning the killing happened, but without proof it was planned in advance.
In order to be first-degree murder in Michigan, it's my understanding that you had to show prior design and calculation. And that's a tough level to show. You have to show planning and actions in furtherance of that planning. They had, I think, from what I could tell, this was a domestic violence case that went south where it ended up in a homicide.
It was premature.
The legal experts we spoke to also say an appeal is highly likely after sentencing that is scheduled for May 7th again in Lenawee County. They say the defense will likely review the trial record and look for possible legal or evidentiary issues to challenge in the appeals process.
The family and community have waited almost 5 years for this day.
Justice for Dee, or as Dee's brother would call it now, victory for Dee. It's been 5 years of searching, questions, heartbreak, and now a chance for peace.
If anybody has any information out there,
We ask that you please contact Crime Stoppers.
It started as a plea to find Dee Warner, reported missing April 25th, 2021.
Obviously, as time goes on, we are more and more concerned.
A plea that came with endless searching by her family, friends, and community, combing every acre in the area for clues. Dale Warner, Dee's husband, at the time claimed she likely ran off.
The only thing that's really strange, too, is this time she put her wedding ring in my desk.
Weeks, months, and years went by with nothing. November 2023, Dale Warner is arrested and charged with Dee's murder, with the case expected to go to trial without a body.
This for me is a long waited for step of progress.
A judge declared Dee Warner dead 4 months later, something the family had pushed years for. Then later that summer, August 18th, 2024.
It was certainly tough for the family to face my sister's remains in a man-made tomb.
Her body was found here, in an anhydrous tank on the Warner property. She was found wrapped in a tarp with duct tape. Her body still preserved. A coroner found that Dee died from blunt force trauma and strangulation, ruling it a homicide.
And just by his acts, you can tell that he is completely intent with what he did.
Come January 2026, the trial of Dale Warner starts. Through 3.5 weeks of court, 33 witnesses in 8 hours of jury deliberation.
As to count 1, guilty of second-degree murder. As to count 2, guilty of tampering with evidence.
Over the years, this case has put Adrian and Lenawee County in the national spotlight.
Tonight, with a verdict reached, Steve Iwanek is hearing from those who live in the area and say they're ready for the community to heal.
Well, next month will mark 5 years since the entire story of Dee Warner's disappearance all began. And now you fast forward 5 years later to today, where we had a verdict in her disappearance and in her murder case. We went out to the city of Adrian to talk to people from all these different small communities in southeast Michigan about how they processed the last handful of years and now how they're going to be moving forward now that we have a verdict. Adrian and Lenawee County as a whole have been in the spotlight for a while now, from April of 2021 to Tuesday.
Tragic not only for the family, but friends, loved ones that dearly cared for her.
But now residents are ready for a fresh start. One of those being Buster Vardaman, a lifelong Adrian resident who was pleased with the jury's verdict in the case.
He deserves the punishment, what he deserves. Absolutely, 100%.
Others like Michael Lear were also happy with the jury's decision. He's been keeping tabs since it all started.
I've followed the trial on YouTube and with Mel on WTOL Channel 11.
But he felt the prosecution could have been stronger in their case.
I thought the prosecutors were lacking. They left a lot of questions unanswered. I'm sure the jury probably didn't have answers for a lot of things that were probably crossing their minds.
In the end, though, an answer was reached. Guilty. And now community members hope Lenawee County can heal.
I'm sad that our city became noted because of this murder. It's unfortunate because it's a small town in southeast Michigan with, lots of things going on here that are wonderful for our community.
That was Steve Iwanek. Now let's recap. Took the jury about 8 hours over 2 days to find a verdict. Dale Warner is guilty of second-degree murder of Dee Warner and guilty of tampering with evidence after putting her body inside a fertilizer tank where it was hidden for 2 years.
Sentencing for Dale Warner is Thursday, May 7th in Lenawee County at 8:15 a.m. If he were convicted of first-degree murder, Warner would face a life sentence with no possibility of parole. But with second-degree murder, Warner is still facing life in prison, but with the possibility of parole. The tampering with evidence conviction is an additional maximum of 10 years, but Dale Warner is 57 years old. It's quite possible he could spend most, if not all, of his remaining years in prison.
Don't forget, you can see how this case all unfolded from the beginning right now by streaming Hidden in Plain Sight, the disappearance and discovery of Dee Warner, anytime on WTOL 11+. 11 Investigates sat down with Dee's family and broke down the entire investigation in our special 30-minute presentation.